While many people take great care in planning their estates, important family members are typically left out of their planning: your pets. Hi, I'm John Strohmeyer with Strohmeyer Law, and today we're talking about how pets can fit into your estate plan. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on future videos. Now, pets usually aren't part of any family's estate planning because the planning is going to focus on transferring property to the right people and minimizing taxes. But this doesn't mean that your pets should be left out of your plan. Look, we have 3 dogs in our house and we know they're part of our plan. We need to make sure that they get taken care of. One of the goals of estate planning is always ensuring a smooth transition from one situation to another, and pet owners, whether it's me, whether it's you, still should find a plan for how their pets are going to be cared for and how that transition will be as unobtrusive and really as smooth as possible. So this means knowing who that new caretaker will be, because if we don't go through this planning, the pets can't tell anybody what is wrong or what to do. It really is something we want to be thinking about. So what can we do to plan for your pets? There are 2 scenarios we want to think about. What happens if you die, and what happens if you're incapacitated? In both cases, you can't care for your pet, and somebody's going to have to come in and be able to take care of them for you. Now, if you die, the most straightforward planning option is just to make an outright gift of your pet in your last will or your revocable trust to a specific person who's going to serve as the new pet's caretaker. Now, as a pet owner, I know thinking about your pet, whether it's your dog or your cat or your iguana or your fish, considering them to just be mere property is a little hurtful, and it doesn't seem right to treat a family member as property. The reality, though, is the law is going to consider them property, and they can be distributed as part of a last will or part of a revocable trust. So just understand, even though we talk about them as though they're property, this is just what we have to do to make sure that we can take care of them. So in addition to transferring your pets, which is going to be helpful because you're going to say, Cousin Bob, Aunt Ashley, these are going to be the people who take care of my beloved Griswold once I can't take care of him. You're also going to want to make sure that you're giving them the information they need. So not only their toys, but what medication, their food, their beds, all the paraphernalia, so that that pet's new caretaker can take care of them. You may also want to consider making a specific cash gift to that caretaker to remove any financial burden that may come along with having this new pet. It's not only to offset the cost of food and grooming now, but also future medical bills for your pet's care. So if you know that your pet is more intensive when it comes to medical treatments, budgeting in for that when you think about it. It's not just a gift of Griswold, but here's Griswold and $10,000 to ensure that he's still taken care of. So these are how we can make direct gifts. And while making direct gifts is the easiest way to care for your pet after you're gone, the new caretaker has no legal obligation to care for your pet. So if you're unsure that an outright gift where you're just saying, here, this is now your pet, you're in charge of him. If you're unsure that that's going to result in the appropriate care for your pet, you can set up a pet trust to create a legal obligation for the trustee of the pet trust to care for your pet. Pet trust can be created in a couple ways. There are statutory pet trusts under Texas Property Code here in Texas, or you could set up a custom drafted trust. Now, do I use these? Rarely. A pet trust can be created during your lifetime. It can be created at death. Ultimately, this is something where you're setting up a lot of surrounding structures and legal obligations when it's best done by figuring out who should be in charge and just making sure they understand that they're going to be responsible for taking care of the pet that you cared for. So the expense of creating a pet trust will give you peace of mind by ensuring that your pet is appropriately cared for, but it may cause more headaches because the person who's named as the trustee is going to have tax returns and other obligations to carry out. It's not a blanket no on this. It just means that you need to think about it. So what would a pet trust look like? Well, the terms of a statutory pet trust here in Texas allow an owner to create a trust for the benefit of that animal alive during the owner's lifetime. So Griswold, Molly, and Billy, my 3 dogs, I can only create a trust for them. If something happens to me and I pass before we acquire any new dogs, I can't have this trust continue on beyond the life of those 3 dogs. So it exists during the lifetime of that pet and then provides for the distribution of any property remaining after their death. Any remaining property at the pet's death can either pass to a beneficiary under my will or to my heirs or other beneficiaries under a trust during my life. So while you have some options with a pet trust, really you're making sure that somebody is legally obligated to care for your pet. Now, if you go with the alternative, the customized pet trust agreement, well, unlike the statutory pet trust, a customized pet trust can continue beyond the life of an individual animal. Now, if the trust is created during your lifetime, it will exist before your death, ensuring there won't be any sort of delay between caring for your pets on your death and the next person. Of course, the important thing to remember is that you're going to have to make sure that the trustee knows, whoever's going to take over after you pass, they're going to have to know that their obligation is there and they need to take care of that pet. So what you're also thinking about is you're going to incur not only the cost of drafting the trust and funding it now, so assigning property, putting a bank account into that trust, but also the administrative costs from now until the trust's termination. So you're going to need to make sure there's enough assets in the trust to ensure that when you pass, there will be enough to care for your pets who are held within the trust. The alternative to creating an inter vivos trust is creating a testamentary pet trust, meaning this trust won't exist until after your will has been admitted to probate. Now, this minimizes the costs associated with funding and administering the trust during your lifetime. You'll save on trust administration costs during a life, but you must have enough assets in your estate so that when you die, you can still fund the trust. What we don't want to get is a situation where you say, give Griswold and $15,000 to my pet trust, then there isn't $15,000 left because you've set up beneficiary designations to route the assets elsewhere. Again, thinking ahead, knowing what's going to pass through probate, what's going to be available to actually fund the gift. You don't want to end up with a situation where we have a trust with no liquid assets, which could jeopardize the entire trust. Another issue to consider with a testamentary trust is that it can take several months for a will to be admitted to probate, depending on your jurisdiction. This can create a gap in time from the time of your death till that trust is created and the trustee actually has the legal authority to deal with the trust property. So, who will be your designated caregiver who can care for your pets during that time without any financial support? You'll want to think about that as you set up those trusts. Here in Texas, we actually have another option for long-term planning, and that's to have your pet cared for by an institution such as the Stevenson Companion Animal Life Care Center. Now, this was created by the Texas A&M College of Veterinary Medicine to care for orphan pets. Now, the Stevenson Center accepts almost every type of pet, not just cats and dogs, but horses to llamas, so you can be sure that there will be a caretaker willing to care for your most exotic pets. Because they provide a wide range of services and lifelong care for your pets, they do require significant endowment to ensure that they can properly care for your pets. Now, in addition to planning for your pets after your death, I also mentioned we want to think about planning for your pets if you're incapacitated, say if you're in a coma. If something happens to you and you can't care for your pets, their needs must still be met. So, you'll need to update your other planning documents, such as your durable power of attorney, to include powers for dealing with your pets. For example, your agent under your power of attorney should have the power to spend your money to ensure the care and treatment of your pets. Pulling it all together, what do you want to do right now to ensure a smooth transition for your pets? First, you should figure out who will be your pet's caretaker. While it's important to know who is willing to take care of your pet, it's also important to let them know that you'd like them to be responsible for your pets if something happens to you. The person you're setting up needs to know that you expect them to take care of your pets if something happens to you. It just ensures that they at least know it, and if you've talked to them about it, you can give them a chance to voice any concerns and possibly say no. If they're not the right person, if they don't think they can do it, you at least know now before the emergency comes up. Now, you don't need to have a long formal interview with anyone. A short conversation of, hey, if something happens to me, can you take care of my dogs? Instructions are in this drawer here in my kitchen. You may also want to consider having a few people named just in case one of them is unwilling or unable to serve. You should also look to put together a notebook with information about your pets so that their caregivers know how to care for them to smooth that transition. Again, your dog's not going to be able to tell their new caregiver that they get fed 4 times a day. they're probably going to tell the new caregiver that they get fed 8 times a day. So until you teach your pets to talk, you'll need to make sure that you've conveyed the right information about feeding, medication, and other needs to that next caregiver. Beyond medication information, specific dieting information, feeding times, favorite activities, the preferred vet, who's going to know a lot of the information as well. Now, estate planning focuses on smoothing the transition of assets for the humans left behind. But because pets are parts of our family, we want to make sure that we as pet owners are planning for the transition of those pets to their new caretakers if something happens to us. Thanks so much for watching. If you've got other questions about this, go ahead and leave a question in the comments below. Also, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.